peace and blessings, everybody. Welcome to the episode of Politically Street. I'm your community ambassador, Mr. Robin J. Anderson. Before I get started and introduce this gentleman, I'm going to give my disclaimer. Politically Street is not a politically endorsing podcast. We're here for information purposes only. On Politically Street, I interview business owners, community leaders, and elected officials. All right?
Gotcha.
So with that being said, this brother here, man, how did we meet, man? Was it,
I'm trying to remember that. It might have been when I was running for the county school board.
Okay.
Because I represented Precinct 1, which is Acres Home was a part of it. So
Right,
I remember, but that was probably pre-pandemic. So that's probably all of our memories get fuzzy. Fuzzy after the pandemic. But I think it might have been around then. Because when I was on that board, I did represent Acres Home and other parts of this area. So I remember I was over here a lot more.
It could have been. That had to be what it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's like around 2019, 18, somewhere up in there.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I ran in 2018 for that seat.
Okay.
So I was on that board from 2019 until 2023 when I resigned to run for state rep. So
okay. Gotcha. So. Mr. Danyahel Norris.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate you having me.
Man.
Always good to chop it up. And it's always good to talk about the community. So
So what I usually do then is I do a background of people, and then we fast forward to where you are now.
Okay.
So where'd you grow up?
I was born in Chicago.
Chi-town.
Went to middle school, high school, Arlington, Texas. Came here for college. I went to U of H for undergrad, studied chemical engineering, went to law school at TSU. Hung around.
Thurgood.
Yeah. Thurgood did me well. I said, not only did I get a law degree, I got met my wife there. And I taught there for like 12 years. So I said, I got a wife, got a job.
Man, how old are you? What you mean 12 years? You ain't even like you.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of the 40s. I'm in the 40s. So
Okay, man, you don't got no gray hair or nothing, man.
I got a few. I just keep them low. I realize the trick is when you grow, the longer your hair gets, the more the gray show. So I just keep it low. So
you chop mine down. I can hide it.
It blend a little bit better.
All right.
But
Gotcha. So Chi-town, did you grow up with mom and dad in the household?
Yeah. So actually, Dad's job is what moved us to Texas. He used to work for the railroad. So he used to work for Burlington Northern before they merged with Santa Fe.
Yeah.
And they moved him from the Chicago office. They moved him to Kansas City at first, and we didn't want to go to Kansas City. And then they moved him to Fort Worth permanently. So we moved down to Texas that year.
Funky town.
So we lived next door in Arlington. But he worked there for a while, and that's what brought us to Texas. And then
Gotcha.
Yeah, I came here for school. But yeah.
Gotcha. And what's you say college? Undergrad you did U of H.
U of H undergrad, and TSU for law school. So
Gotcha.
I came here for school in the late '90s and kind of hung around. So
Gotcha. So, is there a difference between the HBCU and PWI?
Oh, big time. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
and it's for a lot of reasons. Those two specifically, I mean, they're basically twin universities
down the street,
across the street. That's the part that people forget. Like they literally set up separated by Scott Street. That's and a lot of people when they come to try to find TSU, they end up at U of H campus thinking
that's true.
Because the signs say exit Scott for TSU, and then you see that
big campus.
Yeah, you see the campus and you see the stadium. You say, well, must be TSU. No, TSU is across the street. It's actually in the neighborhood.
It's in the neighborhood, yeah, man. And it's kind of unfortunate that TSU is going through the challenges that it is because of the whole. You got big bank taking little bank, you know what I mean? And U of H is they're really taking up a lot of real estate out there. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, working at TSU for a number of years, I actually one of the best descriptions I got was from a former dean of the law school, Otis King, former city attorney too. Otis King, and he's a TSU product. Actually, he mentioned that he was debate partners with Barbara Jordan.
Oh, wow.
And they were the ones, he said, they talked about the great debaters when they beat Harvard. He said, well, they didn't beat Harvard. Wiley, they beat like a California school. He said, but we beat Harvard when we were at TSU. So, but he mentioned that, that one of the big issues with TSU and U of H was that U of H got a lot of the resources. Even we talk about the law school at TSU. TSU had a law school before then, and then U of H. I think when they said, hey, there's no law school for us in Houston. It's like, wait a minute, nobody was ever excluded from going to TSU. The reason that TSU existed was because they excluded us from going from the school across the street.
Check.
So that it has gotten a number of resources over the years, and TSU has been. Historically, has been underfunded. There have been lawsuits and all kind of things that have happened to try to address that. But it is they are definitely twins that where one is fed and one was not.
That's a good comparison.
But we kind of see we kind of see some of the ramifications of that. But it's a good case study if you look at both, the histories of both, which were both founded by HISD. Actually, a lot of people don't know they were founded at the colleges in the 20s by HISD, and then TSU became a state institution to when they got the law school to keep black people out of UT. That didn't go over. That didn't. They ultimately. The state put a law school there and say, "Hey, that's the separate. That's y'all's law school. Y'all don't need to go to UT." And then they had a lawsuit, and Thurgood actually, before he put his name on the law school, he fought against the law school. And they come to find out, they said, well, you're going to say that this black law school that y'all founded yesterday, basically, is going to have the same quality that this law school has that's been funded, that has all this longer history. And they lost that argument. So ultimately, TSU had one job to do, and they didn't do it. And then they say,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So basically, ultimately, they said it was this. It was almost like the black bastard child of the state institutions. It's like you got a black bastard on your hand that you don't want to claim now. That had a job and you didn't do it.
And it makes sense because I didn't know that right after slavery and that's when most of the HBCUs started to kind of come into fruition and whatnot. And so there's a guy up there at Prairie View named Frank Jackson. And I was up there doing some business or something, I forget what it was. But long story short, he sat me down, me and a business partner of mine. He was saying that, the only reason HBCUs are here because they didn't want us in their institutions.
Right. And
I felt so robbed. I'm like, wait a minute. So even though I love coming here, but because they didn't want us there, this is why Prairie View is here. This is why all the other. I say, man, that's crazy. I felt bad,
Well, it's a double-edged sword.
Right.
Because, they founded them. They founded them for the purpose of keeping us out. At the same time, for those who had HBCU experiences versus those who had PWI experiences, some will say, well, they weren't looking at me side-eyed. Some people had those PWI experiences, but they look at me like, why are you here?
That's right.
Especially if you have an HBCU nearby. It's like,
that's true.
You should have gone over there.
With your people,
So, I've done both. It's definitely a different experience. I will definitely say that, there is definitely a place for HBCUs, and I think I think especially is a good time now, especially with everything that's going on. There are so many things that a lot of people do not like to address, and I think HBCUs are in position to address a lot of issues that affect us. I think, they're the institutions that are supposed to do the thinking. So we have, black people, black community specifically, we have a lot of complex issues that go back, decades, generations, hundreds of years.
I agree.
And you're not going to figure that out with a simple policy. You're going to have to think through some major policies, what are the ramifications, and you're going to have some really deep thought and really deep studies on those things. And HBCUs are a perfect place to help address some of those issues.
That's a good perspective. I didn't think about it like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I didn't think about it. Well, when you were at TSU, I'm assuming you pledged over there. You pledged Kappa, right?
I pledged at U of H. Yeah. But TSU being so close across the street, we all saw each other.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of TSU, a lot of U of H. We all saw each other during that time period. But
I had a gentleman on last podcast. He pledged Alpha, and I was asking him how did he get so ingrained in the community? And he said, that being an Alpha is what kind of, I guess, taught him how to get out there and be community oriented. Is that what kind of where you got your inspiration from?
Well, no. I mean, my dad was a Kappa too, so that I brainwashed. He was. You take me to the picnics when I was a kid. Just didn't think it was like, what is this KAY? I didn't even know what the letter was. I was I thought it was K. Who was K?
Yeah.
So I mean, the community was always a big thing. In my household, I remember going to the Million Man March when I was. I
didn't get a chance. I wanted to go. So I was at Prairie View when it happened too. Was that 95?
95, yeah. So I was in high school. We drove from Texas. We drove from Arlington over to DC.
Wow.
And then actually, while I was at U of H, one of my frat brothers put a bus together to go to the Millions More movement. So that was 5 years later. Was the Millions More movement. So it was one of my frat brothers, Kosi. He Kosala is his name, but he put up. He's part of the nation. Got a bus of us together, and we took a bus from here all the way to DC. I think we didn't even stay the night at the hotel. We really got all the way to DC. got to the hotel just enough to shower, and then we went to the march and then drove right back.
Yeah.
But it was a number of us on that. Paul Wall was actually on that trip. That's
wow.
interesting because he went to U of H too with us back in the day. So that gives you
everybody say that Paul Wall he's an honorary African American. You know what I mean? So
yeah, he was. I mean, not too many people go. Not too many non-blacks go to hear Farrakhan speak. Let's just say that much.
Good point.
So
I have a similar story. I was at Prairie View and I was in Cobra, the National Coalition of Reparation for Blacks in America.
Okay.
Long story short, we drove a bus from Sophomore all the way to D.C.
Okay.
And we got down there, took a shower, got out there for the rally. I heard Farrakhan speak, and we was back here to Houston. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's back in like the late '90s and early 2000s. Man, that movement was so powerful. You know what I mean? I think if we were gonna get something done back then, it would have been right then. Because now it's like things have changed so much, man.
They have, but I think they have changed big time. I think it's still a good time because I think information travels so fast now.
It does.
A lot of misinformation traveling too, but I think we're in a good position to effectuate change. Now, I think we have more tools now than we did then for sure. Because back then it was, we had to put out flyers and. I guess you had emails then, but it was still slow. It wasn't like because now by the end of the day, everybody knows. If you like, have you seen this yet? Have you heard that news? Whereas the email chain would take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And before then, I guess it was just hand flyers and things like that you had to get things out. So I think I know people. There's always a nostalgia, but I am optimistic on some of the tools we can do now to make changes. So.
I'm glad you brought that up because, I think that a lot of our elected officials that's in office now, they are benefiting from that old regime type of how to pass information, and they're able to cheat the system. There's some people out there, elected officials, who still got people that have been passed on, deceased, that's still voting for them. It's like, but how do we manage that? You know what I mean? It's like even with the social media movement now, you know what I'm saying? How do we gauge that?
Well, they definitely need to get up with the times if you want to reach a broader audience. I think, a lot of our elected officials tend to be older, and a lot of times they tend to reach out. They tend to kind of talk to their own generation to a lot of degree. I think to be effective, to be most effective, let me just say that. I think people can be effective, but to be most effective, I think they need to have. It would be good to have a variety of people in the office that can help reach all the generations, that can reach all the people to make sure, because a lot of young folks, when I used to teach at TSU, I remember I used to do voter registration a lot, and you do voter registration on the college campus, and people are like, well, how does this affect me? And I tell them, hey, you're going to live longer than I am, so most likely you're going to live longer than me, so it's going to affect you longer. So whatever happens here, you better pay attention, or else you're going to be saying 20, 30 years from now, well, how did this happen? Well, it happened when you weren't paying attention. You were able to vote, but you didn't think it was important back then. Now that you're affected by it, now you want to pay attention. So, but that's a societal issue why we have to make sure people know. We always hear, it's important, but seeing how it affects them personally, like, well, okay, people think, oh, I don't, the president, I don't see the president. Maybe not, but that mayor or that or if you caught up in the criminal justice system, that judge, that district attorney, all those people that you didn't pay attention to, now they're affecting your life. Now your life is in their hands, and you had no choice in the matter. You didn't pay attention to it. So being making sure that people actually understand how it affects them. Like we want to fuss about school districts, and HISD right now we know it's taking over, but. We've had this, and it's an appointed board now, but it's been elected for all these years.
Right.
Who was talking about some of the issues that were brought up. That's a whole different thing. So, and I have a lot of things to say about that because as a former school board member, that was one of the reasons I joined. For me personally, it was after 2016 when Trump got elected, I was like, okay, I could do way more than just fuss on social media at this point. I got a whole law degree and all this experience on these things. I could do more than just fuss on Facebook, and that's how I threw myself into the on the county school board, and that's why I was like, hey, let's address the kids that are typically left behind, and that we were dealing with the kids that were getting kicked out of the alternative programs. They're typically, it's either us or probably juvie. And, so those are the kids that most people forget about and, are the most neglected. So, I was glad, to see those, to work with them and make sure that they were able to be provided for and impacted, positively impacted to go out and do great things as opposed to, let them slip through the cracks.
Cracks, right. But let me ask you a question, Danny. I'm being a devil's advocate, but would it be really bad if the whole system is dismantled and restructured to where now it's more, because back in the day, your teacher was in your neighborhood, your police officer was in your neighborhood, but just like this system now, it's not teaching kids how to be productive. That makes sense. They're teaching for tests. You know what I'm saying? And so, to me, I think if we had more, we're back hands-on with our community and even had a little small charter school, alternative school out in our community, had these kids that need more attention, and have like teachers that are retired come back and start teaching them, would that be a bad thing? Because we've seen how this system, the school system is it's not favorable for us nowadays.
I am a all of the above approach. So I do understand people have issues with charters, and I kind of get it. I do understand that, especially if they're the purpose of charters was to operate slightly outside of the red tape of the public schools, to figure out what works in this neighborhood, and to relay that information to the public school to say, okay, this is what's working for this neighborhood. Implement these programs, and you should get better results. That don't typically happen. That don't know. A lot of times it don't happen, and it can be from for a lot of reasons. And I think that alone should be one of the things that we should figure out. I mean, ultimately, we should be looking at education as a holistic perspective. It's like the charters they're technically public schools, but they should be a part of they should be a part of the public system. If they're gonna exist, they should exist for the purpose of making sure that the whole collective is uplifted, as opposed to saying, well, you just become a huge charter, which basically becomes almost like its own ISD, which seems to happen. But to your point, I think we should figure out what's working for our kids, and we should have people that should be involved. I recently finished. You talk about Prairie View, former President Ruth Simmons' book. She has a book called Up Home, and she talks about how she grew up. She grew up. I think she was born in East Texas and kind of moved to Fifth Ward. And not hardly any resources. She had I think she had like a dozen or so brothers. She had a whole bunch of brothers and sisters.
Oh, wow.
And she was the baby, but she mentioned like how the quality of education, she back then, they had the best and brightest of us, because black educators couldn't go anywhere else. So even though they had some of the most needy kids, like she saw herself was included, she got some of the best instruction because they had some of the best and brightest. So I think that there's definitely something to be said about it. That's why she basically dedicated herself to education and became a president. First Ivy League African American president in the country.
Wow.
And she's like, I remember she was at the front. She said, "Yeah, and I'm from Fifth Ward too. So take that all your other neighborhoods." But But it was because of the quality of education and the level of the teachers that are willing to push her. I think, and that's not necessarily the model we have today. Now, your most needy schools don't typically get the best and brightest.
That's true.
Of us anymore. And not that they get bad ones, but I mean there should be, and I think having incentives. That's one thing I did agree with my opponent when I ran for state rep. I agreed. I didn't necessarily agree with the idea of taking the school district down, but I did agree with the idea that yes, there should be incentives for school districts to send their best and brightest to the most needy schools. I agree with that completely. Ultimately, I think in addition to that, I think we also need to look at the fact that these schools. If we look around the schools, what we also shall see, what you also will see, is that the zip code that feeds the schools the two schools cited by the takeover, that has the lowest life expectancy in the county. I think the second or third lowest income. So these are other issues going on too. So I think that's one issue. You got to address schools. Education is a critical component of a neighborhood. But at the end of the day too, you got to address the economics of a neighborhood too. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I read well. not so well in the dark. and if I'm hungry and I ain't got no food, I care less about reading.
Yeah,
so
good analogy. You're right. Good
so all those things being said, I think we need to address all the issues. I think we need to address the whole part, because I've been at the very top of a school district and had the most needy kids, and ultimately they got to go home somewhere.
That's true.
So you got to make sure that when they get home, you could do whatever they can. And I think it was thrown back on me too. It's like trying to say poor kids can learn. No, that's not what I'm saying.
I get your point.
Poor kids absolutely can learn. I am 100% in favor of kids learning. I think any kid can learn. I think we need to try to make sure we remove as many barriers as we can. If it's possible, to make sure that they are able to focus on learning. I think, because I didn't, I grew up middle class, and I saw the kids who have money. They were able to pay for little things like if you pay for tutors, it makes a world of difference.
That's right.
If you don't have to worry about basic things, if you have to worry about basics like eating and how if you're going to even stay here or move the next month, learning starts to go on the back burner.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a big difference. So making sure that more opportunities are there for mom and dad when they get home can mean a whole different lifestyle, a whole different upbringing for kids. So
and God forbid dad is not there. You know, what I'm
big
saying?
Time. I mean,
if dad is not there, then it's like, okay, you know what? I'm hungry, and if mom can provide, you know what? I got a friend that's out here. I see him. He got, he used to be like me, but now he got some shoes on. He eating. What he doing?
Right.
And he go out there, and then now he's a victim of, you know what I'm saying? So right. I get it. I get it, man.
Absolutely. I mean, basic necessities are always going to outweigh the higher order things. It's just if your basics aren't covered, eating, sleeping, food, water, shelter, those are things that we need regardless. And if that's not happening, everything else is going to be secondary. But and you're right. Like if it's only mom and mom is struggling, then ultimately, I'm going to be, as soon as I get of age, I'm going to say, okay, how can I help? And hopefully it's in a manner that, like, it doesn't end up in a manner that causes you to end up possibly going to jail.
In the system, right.
Because after you're in the system, it becomes a whole nother issue in life.
Right. So speaking of systems, I want to transition to your new position where you are, whatnot. So the city of Houston is it's a different city, man. You know what I mean? Like, the city is ran by the mayor, and if everything's now on the mayor's agenda, it's not getting addressed, and so,
up until recently, that's part of my position.
Okay, so it's going to change now.
Well, it has changed.
It changed, okay.
So in 2023, the voters overwhelmingly voted to approve. Back then it was called Proposition A, which allowed three or more city council members can now, if they agree on an item and they sign off on it, they can bring it to the agenda, and and it can become an issue for them to vote up or down.
Interesting.
So that was voted in the 2023 election with the last round where the mayor and all the city council members were voted in. But up until, I think sometime last year, they realized, well, these are legal documents. The agenda is a legal document. And they realized, well, maybe we need a lawyer to help us when we're trying to prepare items for the agenda. So they created a position for it in the legal department last year, and I got hired a couple months ago to work with them on their items. So that's my role at the city, and I did a presentation for so anything dealing with when they're working on items for the agenda, that's what I do.
Gotcha. First of all, congratulations.
Appreciate it.
So how is that different from what was his name, Ryan's, the city attorney? Is he the same position, or what was Ryan's first name? Older white guy.
Vince Ryan?
Vince Ryan, yeah.
He was the county attorney. So,
gotcha.
So he was the county attorney, now it's Christian Menifee. So the county and the city the county attorney represents all the county entities. The city attorney represents the city.
Right.
So, and typically the way the city of Houston is run, it's a little more centralized, because with the county, there's all these different areas of the county. You have all these different departments and all these different electeds that come in through the county, whereas the city typically is run by the mayor and the city council. And the mayor is the one who does all the administration part. So the city council votes the budget, they vote all the administration up or down.
Right.
And the mayor and all the departments that fall under the mayor do all the administration part.
Gotcha.
So whereas the county attorney advises all the county officials, and I was one back when I was on the county school board. So they, anytime we had a legal issue, we had our own counsel, but if we needed a legal opinion or something like that, we would go to the county attorney to get it.
Gotcha.
And then but you have the district clerk, which is the county of the county clerk. You have the tax assessor. You have all these different county officials and county departments that all the county attorney basically has to advise all of them.
Oh, wow.
Anything affecting the county or county jurisdiction, they're the ones that have to address it. So the city attorney's office and the county attorney is elected, whereas the city attorney is appointed.
Gotcha. I was going to ask you, did you run? Okay. Gotcha.
The city attorney is appointed by the mayor, and then that. There's in the city attorney's office, there's probably like 150 or so attorneys. I forget what the county attorney's office. I think I forget how many they have. They're probably a good amount as well. I forget what their actual number. I know the city is around 150 or so. Well, that was before the hiring freeze and the layoff. But yeah, it's about 150 or so attorneys in that office that addresses all the different city issues.
And it's a lot of issues, man. It's a lot of issues. And what I've noticed, and I'm not giving anybody any kind of when I was paying attention when Mayor White, Bill White got out, you had Anise Parker. Anise Parker was saying, "Oh man, this is going wrong. This I got fixed what the last administration did." And then when Anise got out and Turner got in there, "Oh, I got to fix what this." And now it's looking like so is Whitmire saying, "Oh, I got to fix what this person's did." And so it's just like everybody's kind of passing the buck, like, you know what I mean? So it's like the same song.
I mean, that's politics. We see it on the extreme version on the White House right now. We matter of fact, I think they were making a joke. He said, "Everything that's bad right now with the economy is Biden's fault, and everything that's good with it is my fault." So that's part of politics. I think ultimately there's always going to be issues to address. Nobody has left the city, or any government entity without things that need to be addressed when they get out. So there's always things that are going to need to be addressed. I mean, there's always things that need to be addressed, and at some point you got to, sometimes people kick the can down the road. Sometimes they just say, all right, well now is the time to put it to the rubber to the road and get it addressed. So,
and I'm glad that the city is not. Well, it is a little. They say it's nonpartisan, but it is. You know what I mean? To an extent. But right now, and it's just me speaking personally, from both sides, the red and the blue, neither one have done our communities as a whole any good, and it's like, well, I'm standing on that, right? But that's just my opinion, you know what I mean? So
I mean, I hear you, and I so personally, I mean, I've run as that was one difference on the county school board. We were actually partisan, so I've been an elected Democrat, and. I hear you because, once upon a time, the Democratic Party was the one with a party of the KKK. And Republicans love to bring that up, even though they act like they like some things haven't changed. They act like they still the party of Lincoln, according to them.
Right.
It's like, well, that's like saying O.J. when he died was just a football player, right? We only do O.J. It's like some things have happened since then, okay? So let's bring it up to the current times.
Right, check.
But yeah, I personally have been saying for years, I wished that the Republican Party actually got its act together and give black people, because I felt like if the Republican Party gave black people a real option, it'd make the Democrats work harder for that vote, and that would benefit black folks totally. But instead they went the opposite way and got Trump, who's openly endorsed and basically have white supremacists openly endorse him, and and things like that. So it's kind of gone the opposite way. There's a lot to be said, and when the Republican Party is doing that bad, it's like it's not even a real option for black people. It's like when you basically have a party trying to suppress our vote, literally saying like, okay, we look at a neighborhood that got too many black people, we're gonna chop that up so y'all can't ever win an election after we through drawing these districts. That's gerrymandering
is real, man.
Oh yeah, big time. So and this actually was causing a lot of our hyper partisan, because if you draw where people are only going to win if they're extreme Democrat or extreme Republican, then everybody has to go to the extreme. And that's why we get the extreme candidates now, because it's like you can't win a primary talking let's work with each other kind of story.
Wow.
So you have to out partisan the other person. So
man, that's unfortunate, man. So it's like, that's why I ran as an independent, because I feel that, talking about the real issues, and we get behind for a real person and do the work. The only challenging part about being independent is like you got to work harder.
Oh, big time.
You got to work harder, and it's not mainstream. It's like, but it can be done. I think there's a guy in somewhere on the East Coast. He won as an independent, but that's the only person.
People like Bernie Sanders.
He wasn't Bernie. It's another guy. I forget. I can't think his name off the top of my head, but he's younger than Bernie. And he ran as a state senate, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, it can be done. I mean, it's just the fact just get out there and making it happen. But it's like, but I don't know, Danny, man. We got so many challenges to face, man. Like, where do we start? Because we can start locally, but then what?
Well, I mean, everything is local. I think we definitely got to start locally. I mean, that's what people pay attention to the most anyway, because that's why a lot of people don't pay attention, because they think politics are only the president, and it's like he's way in D.C. So why should I care about what's going on in D.C. when I got to worry about what's going on here in my neighborhood? So, but it's up to the politicians to make things relevant to the local. Like, how does this affect you personally? So, that's why you do have to pay. My saying is always, I've been saying for the last several years, after having some discussion with people over the years, it's like, hey, the lower it is on your ballot, the closer it is to your front door. So you worried about the president or the governor, whereas this school district, this school board affects your kids. Like, ain't nothing more precious I'm sending out the house than my kids. So that affects me. That's why I was block walking for people in my school board, because I'm like, I want to be able to call you when I have an issue.
Yeah, right.
The school board, the superintendent, I need to be able to say, hey, this is what's going on with my kids, and this is and if it's affecting my kids, it's going to affect other kids.
Right, you're right. Good point.
So yeah, I mean, but there's a whole lot of other issues. If you look at it, how it affects your life, how does this, like I said earlier, if you've ever been involved in the criminal justice system, and realize that's a whole other system where you're talking about being jacked up, but
it's easy to get in, hard to get out.
Yeah, but you're talking about the DA, the judge, the legislators that wrote these criminal justice laws, all these things that affect your life. And when you get in and say, why is this system so toe up? And it's like, well, but if you have a DA that's only worried about putting people in jail, and not worried about actually saying, okay, if somebody's being affected, we need to put the people in jail who need to be in jail. But if something happens, we need to make sure we actually are trying to rehabilitate people too, because eventually most people who go to jail are going to get out.
That's true.
So do you get out and have no opportunity and end up back in jail, or do you are you able to get out and actually change the trajectory of your life and actually go and be a productive member and actually benefit yourself and society as a whole? So. But all these things usually come back to policies that a lot of people, until they get affected by it, they don't really, they affect people, but a lot of people don't notice where they come from until they start digging and say, wait a minute.
You're right.
I'm affected by this, so let me make a difference. Or if the mayor decides to, we have a strong mayor policy, mayor system here. If you're not paying attention to what the mayor's doing and it affects you all of a sudden, you say, hey, wait a minute, what happened? So
let me ask you a question then. So. How can an average person know what these policies are? I mean, is it somewhere they can go look at them, or is it they got to go to city council meetings? Like, how can they find out?
Yeah, so you definitely, I would definitely say stay involved and see what policies are coming down. City council, most of these things are open to the public. Like for city council, they broadcast every Wednesday. You can go to Houston Television and watch the proceedings live. You can see all the stuff they're voting on. Same thing going on with in Austin. You can pretty much log on and see that. The county, they broadcast live. So these are things that can happen.
Now, what time of the day are they broadcasting?
Usually they happen. So city council is during the afternoon.
Really?
This is during the afternoon. So if you're at work, I mean, I do. I go to city council meetings, but city council public sessions are in the afternoon, Tuesday afternoons. The city council meetings are Wednesday morning at 9. But HTV, you can watch it on your phone, you can watch it on your computer in the background. especially if it's something that like if they're going to vote on something that's going to affect your neighborhood, like drainage or they're going to vote on something that if they're going to do something like they just voted up a MWBE study. So if you're a small business owner, you're a minority business owner, and you want to do work with the city, you might want to know about how that's going to affect. So that might be some that might affect your pocketbook at some point. So yeah, you definitely want to pay attention to those things.
Well, I asked you for a reason because like the average person is at work from like 9 in the morning to like 5 or 6 in the evening.
Right.
And around that time between 10 and 11, that's in the height of like, when stores opening up so people are busy.
Right.
So I think it should be switched to where now instead of having these meetings in the mornings, they should be have in the evening time when people get off, they can at least come.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because that way people getting more involved and know what's going on.
Some places do. I mean, some places do that. Some school boards do it too. I know when I was at HCD, we'd had afternoon meetings too, and I think that was discussed about having them later. Now, whether people come or not, some school boards do that too. They say, well, if people don't get off till 5 or so, maybe we shouldn't do school board meetings till 6 or 7, something like that.
Right.
So it just depends on some cities do that, some government entities do that. It's just a matter of public will. The public is ultimately up to the public. If the public says, hey, we want to be there and we want you to make it convenient for us. Bug your city council member, bug the mayor, and say, hey, we need this to be in the evening when we could actually come and show up and participate more. So
it's almost like they don't want you to come. You know what I mean? Then you get there, they got you on this minute time schedule where you can talk for like basically a minute, and then when time is up, if they don't like what you're saying, okay, next. So it's just anyway. I don't want to get my soapbox, man.
I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's part of the process, and the thing is though, we ultimately, and the whole purpose of the elected process is to tell them, because they'll pay attention to you when they're elected, because they'll say ultimately they got to get reelected at some point.
That's true.
So if you're saying, hey, this is an issue for me, and I think you should be a champion on this issue, and get it to and let the people know that this is my issue, and you can come speak on it. You can come give your minute, but then you can go bug your council member.
Right.
And in the city of Houston, they have, not only do you have your own council member for the district you live in, they also have 5 at-large council members too.
Right.
So you can have potential at least 6 people that you have to vote for on that. Well, 7 because you include the mayor. So there's 7 people around the table of 17 people that have to get your vote. That's you have enough. You have a little bit of more pull on that than you may think. So
yeah, good point. I mean, well, if it's just a single person, but they don't mean if you only one vote, but if it's a gang of y'all, if it's 30 of y'all, that's different. You know what I mean? So,
but I tell you, as a former elected, you know who the people who are active are, because you as a community leader, everybody who don't pay attention, they're gonna say, who should I vote for on this?
Yeah, that's true.
Who's the person that's involved? So they know if you're one of those people that gonna be the influencer, that let people know you're involved, and I know you know who the real movers and shakers are who are on this ballot.
Good point.
So if you're that person that's coming to bug them all the time, they know you're gonna be one of those people who gonna have a loud microphone. So they're gonna pay attention a little more attention than you think.
Make a lot of sense, man. But before we get out of here, man, you want to get anybody any shout outs or what? You have any kind of important words for people besides get involved in?
Well, if I'm gonna give a shout out, I'm always give a shout out to my wife. My wife, I mentioned we met in law school. I was actually her law. She finished before I did, so I was her law clerk before I ended up getting my law license. And she's an attorney and an author these days, so that's what we do a lot more of. She does more of the books things. So shout out to her. My wife Davita, her pen name is Dicey Grinner. For those who like, she was just talking about Sinners. Sinners is hot right now, so she's she got a whole vampire series in that book. So, she's like, for those who like vampires, if you like them, check them out. So shout out to her. And my encouragement to people is mainly, and it always sounds like that, we need to vote. But specifically, looking at what's going on in Austin and in D.C. right now, it's going to be up to, and specifically folks in Houston, because Houston has a notorious habit of underturning out.
That's true.
If Houston turns out like it's supposed to, we really could flip Austin and the nation, because right now there's no path to D.C. for Republicans without Texas. If Texas goes down and flips the other way, there's no path for them to D.C. right now. There's no path for the White House without Texas right now. And if we really turned out like we could, now it would change the whole nation. and I know people don't think of it like that. They just think, oh, hey, and you know, everything is local, but it really can have a bigger impact if we really.
You say it's very impactful. So it's a big state.
It's the ball game, and Houston specifically has such a big role on that. I don't think people realize how much power we had. I mean, Beto, when he got real close, had Houston turned out a little bit more, that could have flipped that Senate seat right there.
Wow.
So
it was state Senate, right?
U.S. Senate. That's when he was running against Ted Cruz.
Okay, gotcha.
So yeah, I mean that was statewide. I think Texas is going to flip statewide before it flips because they've gerrymandered so bad. I think we flip the statewide seats before we flip the whole House because the House is going to have to be a redistricting process. But I still think that I mean sending even just sending a different president it would change what we have right now. If Trump didn't have Texas, he wouldn't have won.
Good point.
So
but I think by how they changed, they flipped on us mid-season, midterms. Like, suppose we didn't want Kamala. You know what I'm saying? Suppose we would have got behind Booker or what's the gentleman? He has a Muslim name. He was at Sylvester Turner's funeral.
Hakeem.
Yeah,
Jeffries.
that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I like that guy. He had a good vibe to him. You know what I mean? Spoke well.
Yeah, I mean, that's his own disaster. Democrats are going to have to do some real rebranding. I mean, when you lose to a 34-time felon, there's a lot to be said on your messaging. I mean, and I saw some of that coming because when I was going out to help some other people on their campaigns, I heard people talking about stuff that was non-issues. They were talking about they were trying to say I hear Kamala is for. They were hearing a lot of misinformation. That's a whole different discussion. But they were saying, well, I hear she's from transgender kids playing sports, and it's like, y'all, this is not an issue. Like it is really. It's not. They're making it sound like it's a real issue. I think the numbers that's such a small percentage of the population. We got so many more issues. We saw that with the Houston Equal Rights Ordinance when they voted that down. Talking about they were worried about trans people in the bathroom. It's like y'all talking about 5 people using a bath. Like look. My personal take, I don't care where you are on the transition. My personal take is if you're willing to cut something off or grow something, you can use whatever bathroom you want. I'm not cutting nothing off.
You. Yeah, straight up.
My body. I'm personally telling you.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm not. They making it sound like it's just a guy putting on a dress and going to go to the bathroom. It's like, look, if he willing to cut something off for that bathroom, he can use whatever bathroom he wants, as far as I'm concerned. He or she. I'm whatever. But that's a non. They're diverting us from the real issues. Because that ordinance ultimately would have protected black people way more because it would have gave black people the option to say, I'm getting discriminated at this club, I'm going to call this number, and they're going to investigate, and they're going to possibly shut that club down.
Wow.
Now you got to file a lawsuit. Who got time to file a lawsuit every time you get discriminated against?
Good point.
So, we are getting distracted. And we've seen other communities get distracted when they got sidetracked with us. They were like, well, if black people come do this now this is going to do something, and they voted against their own interests too. So, but ultimately though, we have to realize that we can make the difference. I think that's my takeaway. Just there's pretty much an election every year, sometimes a few times a year.
Right.
Vote as often as you can. And if you don't know the issues, look it up. Go find your. It might be the Chronicle. It might be find a source that you trust. Maybe a podcast like yours that can say, hey, these are the people you don't endorse people, but whoever the source you trust, find a good source that you can trust and say, okay, I like this. I think they're more along my beliefs, and if they're for them, I'm for them. That's what people do when they call people they know and say, hey, which judges are these? We got a whole bunch of judges in Harris County.
A bunch of them, yeah.
Which ones are going to be for us that I should go with, and I'm gonna rock with them.
Right, and I'm glad you said it because to me, that's why I bring people on so they can speak their own. Because I don't follow what I say. Right. Listen to come out their own mouth. You know what I mean? So that way you can know who is what or what not. You know what I mean? So that's why I bring people on. You know what I mean? So I'm glad you said that, man. So where can they find you on social media?
I'm all Danny Norris. Danny Norris is you can find me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. Danny Norris 4TX is my is my website, and I have all my handles on there. But
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm easy to find. I'm really easy to find. So, or if my government name is Danyahel, Danyahel. But most people struggle. Yeah, Danny.
That's why I call him Danny.
Yeah, Danny. Less syllables is always better. So, but Danny Norris is I'm easy to find. On all those above, and if anybody, especially anybody looking to do work that's going to benefit the community. That's what I'm about. So, love to make those economic impacts. Want to bring more businesses in our neighborhoods, bring more groceries, which will lead to more money, more grocery stores, things like that. Anybody that's into uplifting the community, I'm with them. Whether it be voting, whether it be economics. I told you I'm on a lawsuit right now. Suing Texas, right? Yeah. I'm one of the. So I was one of the drive-through voters back in 2020, and in 2021 they outlawed all that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I do what I can. I will sue Texas. I will do whatever. I will fight in any manner I can. Whether I run for office, whether I'm on a petition to sue the state, by any means necessary, I'm all for it. I'm about exercising every legal means we can to effectuate change. So whoever's with that. Holler at me. I'm easy to find. Let's chop it up. We go have a drink and let's go move forward. So
we definitely got to sit down for a drink and a cigar, man. We'll talk about some other stuff. But
I don't do the smoke thing, but I will have a drink.
Are you gonna smoke cigars? Okay.
No, I had sinuses issues as a kid, but I will drink with you. I will have a drink with you. You can smoke whatever you want. I just it just don't do me well. I might end up sneezing and coughing. So you don't want to see that. But I will have a sip with you.
I don't smoke them often, but just every now and then. Maybe once or twice a year, and but other than that, I love a good cognac.
No, there's no judgment regardless. Like I said, I just realized early on that wasn't going to be my vice of choice. So, so but no, I will. We will. I'm always good for a drink and sit down for sure. Always.
Man. So, I appreciate you coming on. We had to circle back around to you, but we came. I'm saying, I'm glad you called me up and texted me, and so we can kind of sit down and chop it up because it was a long time coming.
Oh, yeah. Appreciate you having me on.
No doubt, y'all. So, hey, man, y'all make sure if y'all support my movement, go to politicstreet.com. I'm selling T-shirts. This is going to help kind of keep me going. I'm also on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all Politically Street. I'm out here in the community. I'm talking to people like Mr. Norris here who's making an impact in our community. So, if y'all support me, go by and help me out. Support. Go to Politically Street. If you scroll down, there's a donate button. So whatever y'all give, I greatly appreciate it. All right. So till next time, y'all.
All right.
Peace.
Definitely want to give a shout out to Politically Street, man. That's one of the coldest names you can have. Because we out here in these streets, but these politics is trickling down, so it's all intertwined, man. So we got to figure out how to work it the way we work. So shout out to Politically Street.